average is laying about 2,000 eggs, and they're especially active in the spring and fall. Yes, they're active now. They've been active for about 2 months. Anytime we get above 32 degrees, they're active, so they're an issue.
365 days
Our
a
deer
year,
hunters
all
are
year
in
round.
danger because they're out there in the fall and they're sitting in the leaves and they're going through the leaves and they're setting the equipment down in the leaves, and they're all of a sudden in the emergency room in February with this so-called weird flu with enzymes in their liver that are elevated and all this stuff. They're not thinking Lyme disease, but a lot of times it's Lyme disease that's happening. So anyway, you have to be vigilant throughout the year on those. And the nymph is very hungry. You can see the larva stage. There's 6 legs. If you get a teeny tiny bit tick on you and there's 6 legs, you're okay. They haven't had a blood meal yet and they're not carrying anything. But if they're the nymph, then you're getting into the danger zone. So it's another identification.
Disease.
It's medically important to know if there's 6 legs or 8 legs on that. Many experts say that it takes up to 24 hours for it to be a concern as far as having organisms that will get in there, but there is some debate about that, because part of it could be that if that tick already started a blood meal in another part, and so
as long as the bacteria is gone, it's a possibility that you can get the disease.
And there's a certain amount of time that happens where, particularly the Borrelia organisms, if it's in that tick, once that blood meal starts, there are certain proteins that signal the Borrelia to let loose inside of the tick and come out and get into, released through that sucking motion, so it's getting in there. So having it on for this long or that long, the lesser amount of time, the odds are less that you're going to have a problem. If it's been on for, let's see, 60 hours, there's a 50% chance of being infected. But here's the thing, even if it's engaged, you already have a 10% possibility of being infected. Doesn't sound bad, you might not be infected. However, when they're looking at the risks, and the scientists have looked at the risks, the recommendation is that if the risk percentage is over 3.6, you should treat. So if that thing's been on for any amount of time and it's engorged, personally, I would want to make sure I'm getting some kind of treatment going, or get to the doctor at least and have it looked at. If I don't go into the doctor right then, if I'm becoming symptomatic, which symptoms don't start to show up until 2 or 3 weeks to months later, but you need to go back and remember I had that tick bite.
That's right.
Okay? I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm so excited to tell you everything. So here's more about the life cycle. Again, they're very small, as you can see on the hand. My son took the picture of the deer. Not a great picture, anyway. Just deer hunters need to be careful. I know my husband's getting so excited. It's turkey season. And all I can think about is how he's going to be in the middle of all these ticks. But he enjoys it, so he's going to be going off. But it's another turkey hunting is another danger point. Back to ticks before I tell you about this slide. What they're doing is something called questing. So you're walking by and they're on these tall grasses and they're kind of like this. Have you seen how ticks kind of move around? It's called questing. They're looking for something to grab a hold of. And one of the things that they're sensing isn't through their eyesight, but they're sensing carbon dioxide. So that's another thing that they're picking up on when you're going through.
Your body.
And again, I think that there is a biokine. Again, that's just my personal. I think there's a biokine issue in there too, because just some are more attractive than others.
Yep.
Right now, they're saying statistically that about 1/3 of the ticks are infected with some organism. And they just, the Minnesota Department of Health is just finishing up. They're doing some gathering of ticks, and they're just finishing up on doing the research on the organisms in those ticks and in your area here. So watch for the Minnesota Department of Health to come out with that information. Okay, and they like heavy layers of leaves. I think I said that. They like the edges. They're especially active before a storm. So if you're out before a storm comes, there might be more of them. So here's the, when you're talking about Lyme disease, you might have to qualify it with someone who has Lyme disease, because Lyme disease is kind of a big umbrella. There's a lot of different organisms that have been thrown in there. The main organism, when I'm talking about Lyme disease, is Borrelia. Burgdorferi or fire, or however the fancy people say it. I'm going to call it Borrelia. But just so you know, there are actually over 100 strains of Borrelia in the United States, and there are 300 strains of Borrelia throughout the United States. So some are causing problems, some are
growing.
not. Some are causing
They are
problems
finding
here,
more
some are
every
causing
day.
problems in Europe. So just so you know, there are a lot of different ones, but for our purposes, this is our main one that we deal with. And as you will see on the slide up there, it's a corkscrew shape, so it bores in like a corkscrew. And it's called a spirochete, is the kind of organism it is because of the shape that it is. And just to help you understand, the closest cousin to this spirochete is another spirochete that causes syphilis. Anybody familiar with syphilis? And what it can do to your neurological system. It's not pretty, it's not good. And neither is this one. This one is not good either. But this is our biggest nemesis. It does not like to stay in the blood. It does not like oxygenated areas. It tries to get out of the blood as fast as it can. So that's why it's difficult when they're doing blood work, because it's hard to find. It doesn't like to stay there. It gets out of the blood and out of the blood vessel as quickly as it can by boring out. It has a better affinity for your muscle tissue, and it likes to get into joint tissues. So depending on which Lyme patient you talk to, they might talk about having arthritic types of pain, muscle pain. A lot of my friends in the Lyme community have heart disease issues. They're doing block, palpitations. They're young people with severe cardiac issues because this organism has entered into the muscle of their heart. So this is one of the biggest ones that we struggle with. There are other organisms as well, and I'll touch on them as we go. But these are, notice the word some. This is just some of the symptoms that someone with Lyme disease can have. It is multi-systemic, is what we would say in the medical profession. It affects just about every system in your body in one way or another. And what's tricky is one Lyme patient might present somewhat more differently than someone else. One of my friends might present mostly with having the arthritic kinds of pains. I'm presenting primarily with neurological issues. I have friends that I have some of it, but most of it is in their gastrointestinal. They have something called gastroparesis. Because of the neurological, it completely knocks out the digestive system. It won't move things through. I have allergies that I could die from. I have a little EpiPen set along with me wherever I go in case I run into something. There's most foods I cannot eat anymore because my body can't digest them, can't assimilate them. They fight against me because my gut is so permeable. It goes through the gut wall and causes my body to react. So I have a very limited wonderful luncheon. You'll notice I was talking to Mary as we went through because I can't eat out really anymore or eat at a function like this because I just don't know what's in it and it's hard to ask. So if you have someone over with Lyme, they would love it because I think you are all probably very good at hosting. Ask them, what can you eat? And they will look at you and give you a huge hug because hardly anybody will ask them that, and they don't want to tell you they can't eat certain things because they don't know socially how to do that. It's very difficult. So anyway, I'm off on the roll. So there are many, many, many different kinds of symptoms, and they're different, but another reason it's difficult to diagnose and why we go from doctor to doctor to doctor. Well, another area for me it knocked out was the endocrine system. So I think there's enough ladies, guys, you'll just have to forgive me, but I think you can handle it. So what happens when you get Lyme disease and you're about menopausal? Women, what are they going to check up your symptoms? They're going to chalk them off to menopause. So women, you have to be vigilant because we have a certain set of symptoms that have to be discernible and you have to have a practitioner who can tell the difference. So it was also playing with my endocrine system, and that's a whole other story. But it messes with all parts of us. Again, fatigue is a big one, joint pain. On this left slide, you have early Lyme and chronic Lyme. Chronic Lyme, it gets into where either it wasn't diagnosed early enough, so now it's entrenched. There are other people that are saying that it kind of takes over the immune system. So maybe the infection is down, but your immune system has been overridden, and so now it's on hyperdrive. So there's different ways of looking and approaching chronic Lyme for those that are doing it, and you have to have a well-qualified physician who can sort that out and help you with that.
That's right.
But again, fatigue, sleep impairment, muscle pain, joint pain, depression is huge. I'd go in and they'd say I'd go in and say it's in my head. I mean, I knew enough that I knew something was wrong with my brain. How often do you go in and say there's something wrong with my brain? I'm giving it to you here, doctor. Oh, well then you're depressed. No, I am getting depressed though because you're not listening to me. And I'm in chronic pain. But anyway, so headaches, nerve pain, neuropathy is very difficult. Again, you have the heart related. It especially breaks my heart because there are so many young people that have this. And when I know the young people are trying to deal with this, with your pediatric cases, a lot of times they'll be misdiagnosed with ADD or ADHD, or anxiety issues and things like this because nobody is giving them the proper respect and attention as a person. They're just looking at this little kid who's just complaining so much. And because it can happen so insidiously, and a lot of us don't remember a tick bite. So if there is a small child who up until this time hasn't been OCD, they haven't been ADHD, and they haven't been complainers, and now they are, show them respect and listen to them on that. Sometimes, only 10 to 20% will have an EM rash, which is the bullseye rash maybe you have heard about. If I have somebody come to me and say, I have this rash, and they show me their rash, this is what it looks like, I'm like, you are blessed among people. I'm like, that is so awesome that your immune system is allowing you to have this rash, because if you go in to a doctor, they're not going to question it. They're automatically going to begin treatment on you. But again, only 10 to 20% of people actually get this type of rash. But if you do have this, it's a hallmark. You should be able to go right in. You should be able to get treated. If you don't get treated and they don't recognize this, you need to find a different practitioner, but don't tell them I said that.
That's true.
Again, with all of the different symptoms, it can mimic a lot of different diseases. ALS, MS, Alzheimer's, autism,
Dementia.
Autoimmune diseases. Suicide is huge among the Lyme community. Mental health issues. They will put depression, suicidal thoughts. They'll put them into the mental health. And I have had depression. I have had suicidal thoughts. I've had the anxiety. I've had the panic attacks. And it was because I had infection in my brain.
That's right.
So you can put me on an antidepressant, you can put me on an anti-anxiety, but it's not going to help. And I will say, since I'm talking to a faith community, it's also all the more complicated when you are a believer and you're dealing with the mental health issues that Lyme can bring. I would just encourage you to embrace the people that have mental health issues, know that about Lyme disease, because we don't want to talk to you about it. You are going to think we are crazy, and you know what we are. We have a raging infection we're trying to fight in our brain. And now is not the time to tell me you need more faith. Now is not the time to tell me to just read a few more scripture. And I'm saying this as a pastor's wife and a patient. But you can do more harm than good. But you can tell them, I'm sorry to hear you're going through this. Is there anything I can do to help? And I believe that you say you're feeling such and such. Because when I can speak to a group of people that have Lyme disease, and I can ask them, how many of you are struggling with suicidal thoughts right now? Nobody's going to want to say it, but there are a lot of us out there, and it's horrible. And as a believer, I don't care how much I'm praying, I don't care how much I'm doing.
That's right.
So you do have to be vigilant, you do have to watch, and we need your grace to understand.
Amen.
It's an infection that's going on, but it's a real problem. We've lost too many. We've lost a lot of people to Lyme disease through suicide.
That's right.
And there's something called Lyme rage. You'll see this with the kids, but you'll see this with the adults as well. They never used to get really angry, but all of a sudden